Is it time? Can I go? Okay, can you guys all hear me? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for still being here. It's almost end of the show. I was a little bit worried as to how many people will show up. So, so today we're just going to talk about AI and how it can have an immediate impact on your casino operations. There have been a lot of meetings about online iGaming, sports betting, and so on and so forth. Very cool meetings. Everybody is very excited. But there's also some amazing stuff happening on the land-based side. I want to show you that land-based technology also is pretty cool and sexy. Right? So, I am Kiran Brahmandam. I'm the founder and CEO of the company called Gaming Analytics. I've been in the industry for about 20 years. Built a lot of new technology on the system side. Won many innovation awards, a lot of patents. And a little bit of interesting tidbit about me is back in the days, I was also actually part of the engineering team that built the first ever streaming video solution in the world. Right? So the first video call that happened from a 2G phone to a legacy computer using your dial-up networks was actually part of the team who built the streaming protocols. So I was always lucky to work on some very interesting technology. And I've embarked on this AI journey about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm going to share some of the stories and what our journey has been. Okay? So this is what this session is about. AI and the positive impact it has on the casino operations, impacting multiple departments in an organization. And also, what are the barriers to adoption? So everything that you're going to see as part of this presentation is from our learnings, as part of gaming analytics. And also the key role leadership teams have to play to start embracing these new technologies. At a high level, these are the 3 points I'm going to cover. Okay? But before we talk about AI, let's just go back a couple thousand years ago. Right? So in ancient Greece, when people wanted to make decisions, very important life-changing decisions, things like, should I get married? Should we go to a war? Who should be the general? So this is what people would do. Right? They climb up the mountain, go to the oracle, go on their knees, and ask these questions. Okay? And the oracle would think about it for a few days, and then comes back with a prophecy. And big decisions were made based on those prophecies that changed the human civilization. So whether it is the Mayans, the Chinese, the Indians from India, or the First Nations, this kind of culture existed across civilizations. And why is that? When you're trying to make an important decision, you want to get it right. You want some external validation that you're making the correct decision. And the ancients relied on these oracles. In the new age, AI is the new oracle. So whether you want to call it machine learning, artificial intelligence, Gen AI, neural networks, call it whatever you want. Right? I know there's a term fatigue with AI. But this is the new oracle, a piece of technology where you can ask questions about your business and get answers. For example, how much money would I make next week? Which players are likely to come back to my casino? What slot machines do I need to buy? What should be my marketing strategies? And so on and so forth. Right? And then if you think about it, again, there's a lot of confusion on what AI is and what AI is not. For the scope of this presentation, this is how I'm defining it. Okay? When you think about AI, you start immediately thinking about these sci-fi movies. Okay? There's a lot of work that's happening there. But where people are making money is on this side. So any activity that humans are able to do, now you're able to do it at scale with software and technology. And that's where money is being made. And that's what I'm actually going to share some examples today. Okay? And whether we know it or not, we all, I guess, know it. We live in the age of AI. So there's nothing that we do in our daily lives where AI does not play a role. So let me give you a recent shopping experience. I was going to go buy a booth for G2E. I went online, start typing questions. And then I've got some suggestions from Google about what booths I should actually buy. And then the ads started following me everywhere I go. Right? Whether I went to the news channel, the sports channel, and so on and so forth. And you probably see that every single day in your life. You look for something and instantly ads are following you. And then it also knew that since I'm looking for a booth, maybe I should buy some monitors. And then in 20 minutes, I actually bought a booth. $5,000, just like that. Right? That's, by the way, that's our booth at G2E. But the point is this. It's very easy to make a sale when you exactly know what your customers want. And then if you think about it, how is all of these things happening in the background, and how is actually AI improving business efficiencies? I mean, these examples, Amazon recommendation engine makes boatloads of money. You know that. There's nothing new that I'm offering you here. Similarly, when you actually place an order, they're able to actually reduce the click to ship cycle time from 75 minutes to 15 minutes. That is why you even have 1 hour deliveries nowadays. That's not new. But if you think about it, how are these companies making these things happen at scale? What's common across these examples? Connected data. So these companies are able to connect data across multiple systems. They're able to do personalization at scale, tremendously increasing productivity using algorithms, sensors, GPU, and computer vision. Right? So we call these companies AI-centric companies. Companies where AI is the core, where humans define goals, draws the boundaries of what technology should or should not do, and software executes it. Okay? For example, what's the job of Facebook? To get more clicks. What's the job of Netflix? To make you watch more TV. What's the job of Amazon? Buy more products. Right? And then compare all that automation that you experience in your daily lives to what happens when you go to the office, to your casino operations. Everything is extremely slow. Everything is time consuming. Very, very manual processes. I get an offer next month based on my play 3 months ago. Right? So everything is time consuming. And this is where we are today. And then the reason for companies, casino operators to start looking at AI is one, you not only make more money, but there's also a big transformation that's happening. Right? In the last 2 days, I've been hearing all these panels about younger demographics, social, sportsbook, cashless, online. Hiring is a challenge. There's more data than ever before. I remember yesterday Pat Davis from BCLC saying they only know 30% about their players. And by the way, the amount of data that you collect about your players is not reducing, it's increasing. So this is what is happening in the industry, and it's extremely difficult to actually run your business the same way you've been running for the last 15, 20 years. Right? So this is the landscape. And in that, by the way, your competition is not just casinos. It's Facebook, it's Netflix, it's Amazon. Why? They're actually competing not only for your player's wallet, but time. Right? There's a reason why I get up every day thinking I need to exercise, and then my mistake is I open up YouTube Shorts, and then it's 7 o'clock. Right? So you're actually battling for time with these big boys, and they're heavily invested in AI. And when you think about AI, it's just not the players. I come from the perspective that we need to leverage technology to make the casino operator's life easy, which in turn will make sure your players will have an amazing experience. And when you think about AI, think about every single department, not just slots or marketing. Right? It's slots, marketing, player development, audit, compliance, finance, and so on and so forth. It has a much wider impact than you can imagine. Okay? And here are some of the success stories in terms of AI providing value in the land-based casinos. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that the land-based operators have actually embraced more of AI than what I've heard in some of the online stuff. It's actually a little bit of a surprise for me. And by the way, all these case studies and experiences that I'm showing primarily come from the United States. We are deployed in about 240 locations. That's what our journey and our story comes from. Okay? For example, accessing data, we make it super simple with technology. AI is able to do revenue forecasting much better than the CFOs, and I'll show you some examples. Slot recommendations to make good games great. If you want to just swap your bottom 10-15% of the games, you don't need software. You can just do it yourself, right? It's the games that are doing well, and how do you actually squeeze out more juice out of it? Efficiencies, floor layouts, understanding players' risk, their churn, their future potential value. How do I transform the way I do my marketing segmentations? Because casinos spend a lot of money on marketing. What if you could save 3, 4, 5 percentage points in expenses while increasing your top line and keeping your players intact? Right? Automated workflows for your player development, anomaly detection for audit, fraud, compliance. So there are many, many successful use cases of AI that's already deployed in the industry. Right? Because I keep hearing, well, AI is not ready yet. I can't trust it. Maybe in some situations, but there is value that you can extract out today. Right? I'll give you some examples. Okay? So we have seen operators save 16 to 23% of their time when using this technology. So for example, some of your organizations are huge. What if you get a day back in your life? What would you do with that? Maybe now you have more time for focusing on the strategic initiatives. And how do you get back to your time? I'll give you an example. Let me just play this video. This is actually from one of our production sites. You just want to know who are your best players. Just type a question. In about 6 seconds, you get an answer. Right? Similarly, you want to know how much money I made last week, last month, last quarter. Right? Today, this information, the data is there, but it's extremely difficult unless you go through an analyst or you have a dashboard that is actually pre-built for you. What about all these ad hoc questions that you have? So this is what technology allows. And I know you guys are all very familiar with ChatGPT recently, but we've been doing this kind of search for about 5 years, right? So it's pretty flexible. Okay? So and this is how the time savings happen. Okay? And I'll just give you another example. It's amazing that how many operators make slot decisions without really knowing who plays these games, because the data exists in 2 different silos. Right? Just to know who plays your Dragon Links, that information is actually not available unless you go through a lot of pain and build a bunch of pre-built reports. So this is how we are actually able to create time, which then leads itself into a bunch of other initiatives where you can actually save a lot of money and make a lot of money. So I'm going to just skip this one for a second. I'll come back to it. And what has happened is, I call this as timescale compression. What used to take days takes a few seconds. So what does that mean? Now your organization has more resources to experiment or even capture new value that you have not realized it exists. Okay? So for example, if you take a look at vaccines, right? A typical vaccine takes about 16 years, typically. But with COVID, Moderna came back with the vaccine in 15 months. And what I read is it only took them 4 hours to actually create the solution. The other 14 months, 30 days, and 20 hours was just going through the process. Because they have this huge AI factory that can analyze all kinds of viruses and DNA and come up with solutions. Right? The speed to market comes up really big when you have technology like this. I talked about revenue forecasting. Right? So these are 3 different examples from 3 different casinos. The blue line is what actually happened. The dotted line is what AI predicted. Everywhere it's pretty good. So this technology is real, it's ready, it's available. Right? Similarly, slot purchasing decisions. So there was a lot of talk in these panels today about, wouldn't it be cool if I actually recommend the right games for the players when they come onto the lobby? Right? The same thing also actually happens on the casino side, on the land-based side. So for example, what we have found out with our customers is about 83% of the floors have a volatility imbalance. Like, what does it mean? The risk profile of the games don't actually match the risk profile of the slot machines. So you have an imbalance. Right? With software, they're able to figure it out. And what they found out is, by actually giving players similar games that they like, whether it is from the same manufacturer or from a different manufacturer, they're able to increase their session TO by 8 to 10%. That's a lot of money. Right? Similarly, completely transforming how you build a zone within a casino based on player preferences. Because a lot of the time, slot decisions are made without players in mind. It's just based on the slot data. So they've seen 66% increase in average. And by the way, all these case studies exist on our website. If you guys want to check it out, you can just go to our website and you'll find it. But I just wanted to show you that, AI is here. It's not something that's actually into the future. Right? So, and then on the marketing side, what we found out is 53% of the players are misclassified. So what do I mean by that? You think Kiran is a loyal player, but is likely churning, right? Going someplace else. They are no longer your customer before. And these are some examples. 3 different casinos, small, medium, large. That customer thought they have 26,000 active players. It's only 15,000. Sorry, they only have 12,000 active players, and they've got more players at risk than they thought, right? And that translates into how much money is at risk. And using that information, if you think about churn, LTV, so you guys familiar with the term churn, right? The likelihood of somebody not coming back. LTV is what their predicted future value is. How have we leveraged that in our AI solutions? This is how a typical marketing offer goes out. So on the x-axis is various segments of players. You take all these players and put into these buckets, right? $0 to $100 player, $100 to $200 players. And then you try to decide based on that particular bucket the player belongs to, you give them an offer. Right? So there's no personalization, there's no differentiation. When we actually truly looked at the value of the player by predicting their churn and their future value, the ones in the green, this is how the offers went out. For some players, we know what their actual value is. It's not what your theoretical or your worth is. So we were able to actually decide which players get a different kind of an offer and which players you actually have to increase spending, right? And by the way, this methodology doesn't disrupt the way you do the downstream of marketing, connecting to mail houses, sending physical mail, email, and all of that. It actually lives within your same process, but just tweaks where the players need to belong. And we have seen customers make up to $2.4 million in expense savings. This is a 1,000-machine casino while getting a 6% increase in revenue. Right? And there are many examples like that, persona-driven marketing and so on and so forth. And also on the player development side, completely automating what a host is supposed to do in terms of who to call, when to call, dynamically giving reminders on which players they should reach out to. We have seen reactivations go from anywhere 11 to 28%. Right? So these are incredible numbers, especially some of the organizations here that are massive. Right? Just think about the impact it could have on your business. Okay? And even fraud. Right? This is a story from Las Vegas, one of the casinos on the Strip. About 30 players were ripping them off on a free play abuse. They deployed our technology, boom, we catch it immediately, those players are banned. Right? So the point of all of these things is just to convey the message that this technology is real and it's only going to completely change in the coming months to give you even more benefits. Then the next question you may ask is, if it's so great, how come we don't have it everywhere? And the number one problem that we have seen is a mindset problem. Okay? It's not technology. Like I've heard a lot of talk about responsible gaming. I think technologically you can solve the problem. It's what do you want to do with that information and what kind of business decisions you make. To understand this mindset, let's go back into the world of art. You guys know Rembrandt? Anybody? He's a Dutch artist. He's apparently the first person that was able to portray human emotions in a very convincing way. Okay? This is what researchers in, I think it's in Denmark, did. They analyzed a bunch of his paintings. This is actually a couple of years old story, okay? But still applicable. And then they fed all of his paintings to a machine learning algorithm. Okay? And the software analyzed all of this data and then figured out a typical Rembrandt is a portrait, Caucasian male, facial hair, 30 to 40 years old, dark clothing, and so on and so forth. And then they actually connected that logic to a 3D printer, and it printed a new painting. Okay? And it was unveiled 347 years after his death at a museum in Australia. And this is how the Rembrandt looked. Right? And then there were curators who actually studied Rembrandt all his life and said, wow, that's a Rembrandt, but I've not seen it before. And they said, well, it's done by AI. It's pretty cool, right? But this is how the world reacted. AI just 3D printed a brand new Rembrandt. It's shockingly good. Right? It's amazing. But the other half of the world said, digital Rembrandt, a new way to mock art made by fools. Right? So what's the point? When you are actually embarking on a transformative journey, you're going to have some of your employees super excited, some of your employees a little bit negative. As a leader, how are you going to manage this? Because they both come from two ends of the spectrum, right? Some want to do new stuff, some are worried about their jobs, whatever the reasons may be. So those are the challenges that you have to actually solve when you want to embark on this journey. And by the way, that took about 6 months. Now you could go to Midjourney or ChatGPT and you get it in 45 seconds. It's just the pace of technology. Right? And by the way, this is just another image. It's pretty, it's beautiful. Right? And then the other big problem is silos. We always talk about data silos, and this is how a typical casino backend system look like 50 different systems. But there are also organizational silos. Right? How the organization is structured. Sometimes I wonder, is the org structure because that's how the products were built? Or products were built because you had an org structure like that, where slots makes decisions without looking at players, marketing team makes decisions without really understanding what slot machines the players like, and so on and so forth. Right? And this is actually a huge barrier. And what we found out is when we actually connected all the silos and gave access to data through a search interface, it unlocks new potential. So again, Vegas, a lot of table games. One day we noticed one of the users, a table games user, using our product quite a bit. I'm like, how come? So we called him. He said, Kiran, in your system, I know who's actually checking in today because you guys have the hotel information. Your software tells me all the games that these players like, what kind of games, minimum bets, maximum bets, and so on. So every weekend, I actually redo my high limit area to match the players that are coming into my casino. And that was basically not a feature of our product. But the fact that we unlocked the silos and gave exposure to the data, users were able to create new opportunities, right? And that's what the power of breaking down these silos is. And then the final one is executive buy-in is very, very critical to success. I feel AI is one technology where it's not like a bottom-up initiative. It has to come top-down, right? And why is that? Because this is where the future is going to go. This is the reason why we started this company, right? I've shown you some examples. If anybody's interested, we'll do a product demo. But the future is going to be like this. We're going to become an AI-centric organization where you guys are going to define goals and software is going to execute it. So imagine a world where you say, can I get an extra 3% coin in? You ask a question to AI. It creates recipes on who to target, when, what offers to give, while taking responsible gaming into account. You push a button, and it executes it. Imagine your whole back-end operation is 4 button clicks. It's going to happen. Maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years, maybe 12 months. But we feel we're pretty close to actually making this happen. So we're going to live in a completely different world. And in that world, you're going to have automation, hyper-personalization in real time, right? And this is, some of it is actually happening on the online side, but the land-based also is going to get into this particular mode. Then as an executive, what should you be doing? How are you going to manage this transition? And then what should the casino leadership do? Option 1, I'll just dabble around with AI, do a couple of projects here and there, and see what happens. Or does this give me a time to rethink? Is this the time for me to reimagine how I run my business? Right? So this is that pivotal moment where if you're an executive, these are the questions you should be asking or thinking about. And how do you transform your business? And my definition, or one definition of transformation, keeping your mission, core values the same, but change the processes. And what do I mean by that? Processes are how do you get things done? How do you measure success? How do you manage teams? And what we found out as part of our journey for the last 5 years is technology is only 40% of the problem. That we can solve, or you guys can buy, you can build, whatever. Technology is not your problem anymore. It's how do you manage those processes and your employees and the skill set. So there's this, you guys know half-life. It's the amount of time uranium takes to decay by 50%. Similarly, World Economic Forum defines half-life for skills. Okay? 30 to 40 years ago, your half-life for your skill is 30 years. What does it mean? In your entire life, maybe you have to refresh your skill twice, maybe once, right? Depending on how long you live. 2017, there was a study that said the half-life of your skills is 5 years, which means every 5 years, you actually have to refresh your skills. This was 2017. 2021, it reduced to 4 years. What's happening in 2021? I don't know. It's definitely less than 4, probably 2 years. So this is how rapid technology is changing. So what role are you going to play in your organization? Right? So whether we like it or not, the technology is going to come. And then I feel like leaders must understand AI and its implication, and everyone needs to be an AI person at some level. You don't have to be the person that's building the technology. You should know enough about the technology so that you can make the right decisions, right, for your organization. No matter what your level is, CFO, GM, CEO, you all should become, a little bit more aware about AI. And nowadays, there's no excuse for not learning, because education is almost free, right? There are many, many sites that you could go to because access to knowledge is free. And you can take the time to actually understand the impact of this technology. And then finally, I got 40 seconds. This is the homework I want to give you guys. Step 1, think about how do I create time for myself, for my team, for my department, for my casino. Okay? Then think about all the bottlenecks. Once you start writing down, how do I get a little bit more time in my life, in my business life, you will find all the issues, figure out the bottlenecks, and then digitize them. Right? And then figure out how do you want to reskill the employees, what kind of training opportunities you want to provide. And attend a true technology conference in a retail space and also an AI conference. G2E is good. All these shows are very good. But you should attend a true technology conference where the focus is on technology and rethink or reimagine. This is the time, and AI makes it a possibility. Right? So with that, if you have any questions, I'll take that. Yes, sir. Any questions, anybody?